Hello and welcome back to the Comic Literate Podcast. I'm Ryan, also known as Comic Stan. I love comic books. My co-host loves regular books, but I make him read comic books. And because I've been making him read comic books, we're now going to go over all the comic books and see which ones were the best of the ones we read. Very important distinction.
Yeah.
And with me, as always, is my best co-host of 2024. It's Jamie.
Best co-host of 2024, motherfuckers.
That's the first award and you won it.
Hey, that means you lost. You
no,
lost
I'm the host, you're the co-host.
Oh, cold.
And if someone wants to give me a best host of the year award, then
no.
I'm open to it.
No.
Wow. Even I just awarded you co-host of the year. I might give it to the dog now.
The dog is my host
I'm going to
of
beep
the
out
year.
his name. I don't want his name.
The dog is my host of the year. Why are we protecting your dog's anonymity?
Because there's records and stuff, and I can only imagine that we're eventually going to piss off some sect of like hardcore fanatics who are going to like track us down somehow, you know?
If they come for Stevie, my cat, I will fucking batter them.
Do you want me to leave that in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mate, I will throw down if you go near my cat. She's a precious angel that bit me 3 times today.
Well, speaking of animal cruelty, how was your Christmas? Because this is the first hour recording since Christmas and New Year, despite the episodes we released over that period.
Yes, there was some movie magic that meant that we took, a couple weeks off over Christmas?
Couple weeks, yeah. And we're coming back hard and strong just in time for before New Year for some reason.
Yeah.
It's just worked out that way schedule-wise.
We come to you today from the gooch of Christmas.
Yes. The most magical time of year.
Oh, isn't it great?
If you're someone who doesn't like all the hubbub of Christmas and all that.
Although I'm still working, so...
No, I'm not. Although, when am I ever really working, you know?
This is very true. Being a podcast host, it's...
Exactly. So, 2024 was a year for comics.
It was. Do you know what? It was a good year for comics for us.
Yeah, it was. There was a lot of interesting stuff. Normally, for me, for as long as I've been reading comics, there's like a couple of bright spots and then it's just a lot of mid.
Yeah.
This year, I think there was more bright spots than I remember, like, before.
Yeah, I mean, scrolling through, Ryan sent me quite a detailed itemized list of everything we'd read this year.
Like I said, I'm not that busy.
No. Also stuff that came out this year. And I recognize maybe 50% of it.
Well, that's better than less than 50%.
I don't recall talking about James Bond.
And that's surprising because you really liked it.
Did I? Did I like it?
Yeah.
The thing is, the audience are now going to know that a lot of my awards for the best are insincere because I don't remember them.
Not only is there a filter for the best comics of 2024, asterisks that we read, asterisks that Jamie remembers.
Jamie remembers reading.
That's the deal. That's why our awards are so prestigious. Because you have to go through all these firewalls just to be eligible, just to be in the running.
You have to get past my terrible memory.
And if you're wondering if I sound weird at all, or if the edit sounds weird at all, I have a cold. I am editing out many coughs.
He's going to infect me.
Oh, yeah. But you've infected me before, so... And what's bros if not just infecting each other?
I just had it.
Then you're probably immune to it. Anyway, but what you're not immune to is great comics. That was a great segue.
Oh, it was really good.
Really good.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah, thanks. So we're going to start off with the least important to most important awards. I think it's the general, like the Oscars.
Yeah.
It's like how they do it, basically. So I've got a category that I thought would be fun.
Yeah.
And by fun, I mean fun for me, not so fun for you, because it's the Corporate Synergy of 2024 award.
Has to go to Void Rivals, surely.
See, I was debating this. I was debating even putting them in the running, right? So Void Rivals, for anyone who doesn't know or missed that episode, it is a comic released by Image, and it's the first of the big Transformers G.I. Joe universe.
Yeah.
That's
corporate synergy at its finest.
But the leveling becomes, it's obviously, it's not zero corporate synergy. Like, there's definitely some.
Yeah.
But the fact that they started off with an unknown title, right? And were really gearing towards, like, making a universe in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
Because I think if it was pure corporate synergy, the first comic would have been Transformers meets G.I. Joe, like, or versus. Like,
yeah,
that would have been the first one.
So do you think because they did a bad job of it, they don't win the corporate synergy awards?
I think I'm normal, cynical bastard me, right?
Yeah.
I'm actually going the more the optimistic route for once.
Yeah.
I think their priority was making an interesting comic book universe. I think that's why they're laying the groundwork, as opposed to the famous example of the DC universe where they were like, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, like... They could have gone down that route, but they saw what happened when you do that, and I think they are trying to make a proper universe.
Okay. So
That's
Void
the only reason
Rivals is out.
If you agree, like I'm just stating my case here.
I think you make a good point, which means the other logical option is Predator versus Wolverine.
That's the strong one. That's a very much we have the rights. Who's our biggest gun? It's Wolverine. Who have we got now? It's bloody Predator. Let's put them together.
Yeah, I think that might be it. Marvel is, potentially. Are there any other nominees?
The only other nominee, because there's the only other proper nominee, and I think it's a fairly obvious one, Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong.
Oh, yeah, but I don't know that that's corporate tie-in, because there can't be a lot of Godzilla money floating around outside of Japan these days.
You live under a rock, sir.
Is there a lot of Godzilla money floating around?
Not only is there big Godzilla money around with the Godzilla, the ones that come out of Japan, Godzilla -1 was a huge global success.
Oh, okay.
But beyond that, Godzilla vs. Kong is a currently active, successful film franchise.
Right, so there is big money there.
There is big money. And it just so happened that as this comic was releasing, a Godzilla vs. Kong film was released.
Right, okay.
Which is why we did the episode in the first place. But also the irony was that when the film came out, it was issue 6 of 7 had released. So we didn't do the last issue because when you would think that they would finish the series when the film released.
I remember this, yeah.
So they missed the mark a little bit with the synergy, but I think it was still a bold-faced attempt at it, you know?
So who do we think is our winner?
I think I'm going to have to give it to Justice League Godzilla Kong. Because again, they tied it in with the release of film. Not accurately, but it was tied in.
This one's contested though, because Wolverine was hot at the time. Deadpool was about to come out.
Yeah, but Wolverine's always hot.
I think it's Wolverine versus Predator.
Well, I mean, in this instance, this is the classic tiebreaker. We ask the dog.
He's licking his testicles.
And that traditionally means he's in favor of mice.
Given that this is your award.
Rock, paper, scissors. I'm happy to settle it in a gentlemanly way. The modern duel.
Okay.
So 1, 2, 3,
shoot.
Reveal. Yeah.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Oh, okay. It's Predator versus Wolverine.
It's Predator versus Wolverine, motherfuckers.
Officially.
How many of those do we get per episode? Because if not, it's just a lot of us playing rock, paper, scissors. Or do we have to up the ante and by the end of it, we're playing Rochambeau?
I think, so this one was difficult because it was 2 runner-ups. It was 2 contenders, essentially.
Yeah.
And we were on either side. I think with the rest, we can argue our points a bit more. I mean, especially, we don't really give a shit about corporate synergy. I think we can argue our points more about, better topics, better, competitions, whatever. So, what was your fun award?
We both allowed ourselves a wild card. And my wild card is called Jamie's Jank. This isn't for worst art overall.
Okay.
I'm sure there'll be a best and worst. I'm sure there'll be a worst art category later.
Right.
I didn't want to take up a big category with my fun award. This is the worst comic book face of the year.
Okay. And
so this is the worst face in a comic book. I have no idea what I think is going to win this. I have nothing in mind, but I just think it's important that we call out the worst face that we saw this year.
Well, so what's interesting about this one, I assume you don't have a list of nominees.
No.
But what you might have still is some pictures on your phone.
Yeah,
when
this
you've
is
seen
it.
And remembered it.
This is it.
So we might just need to, I'll edit out the space and we'll just get those together.
So I would posit to you, and I will send Ryan the screenshot. And if you're listening to this episode on Spotify, but you have access to a computer, also watch along on YouTube, because there's going to be a visual element today, particularly right now. It's this one from Houses of the Unholy. And
you found this was to be a bit janky for your tastes.
It had dead-eyed sex doll face, which is my least favorite type of jank.
See, I thought your least favorite type of jank was when the head wasn't the shape of a head.
Well, yeah, but we didn't have any of that this year, so I've had to scrape the bottom of the proverbial barrel of jank.
So it's been a good year for art.
It's been a bad year for jank. It's been a good year for art.
My only nominee is, and we're going by when we took photos on our phones, my only nominee, surprisingly, was from a comic that I really enjoyed, and we won't get to it too much now because we're going to talk about it more later, but it was a comic with art that I really enjoyed. It was The Deviant, the Christmas serial killer one.
Oh, I remember.
And the art was mostly good, but there was one face, and I'll put it up here as well, and there was just one face that I went, you didn't try on that face, did you?
I think it has to be that one.
You think it's that one?
I think it's Deviant. I think you're right. I know exactly which face you're talking about.
And this is really odd because I think Deviant is going to be a contender maybe for art, for good art, later on.
When I send out the medals, I'm going to have to send them a medal for the worst Jank face, and potentially they're going to win something.
Now, I forget. Did you have any issues like that with last year's awards when you were sending those medals out?
Yeah, I definitely sent those medals out, Ryan.
But it was all fine. Like, you didn't have any issues.
No issues like that. What I have access to now is my girlfriend turned up a badge making kit.
Okay.
And so I think I'm going to, instead of having medals made this year, because I sent medals last year, obviously.
Of course, yeah. I think I saw Tom King was wearing one.
He was wearing one on a red carpet, wasn't he?
Yeah.
When he was going in and out of DC meetings, he made sure that he had his accolades on.
Yeah, and they were like, "Oh, you come this way, sir." That's a very prestigious award.
Comic Literate Comic of the Year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do pin badges, and I might actually do them this year.
As opposed to last year when you did the medals.
Yeah, as opposed to last year when I definitely made and sent medals.
Okay, right.
Yeah, I think it might be Deviant.
Oh, fair enough. Well, it's not the award you wanted, but it's the award you got.
Congratulations, Deviant, on winning Jamie's Jank 2024.
Congratulations, James Tinian IV, who is a really accomplished writer.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It had some jank face. It happens every once in a while. It's a great comic. We're going to talk about it more in depth. Any other fun awards or?
No, I think that's all of them. I think that's all of the silly ones. We can get into the meat and potatoes.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I was going to suggest for next one, considering we actually did a surprising amount of them, best horror comic of the year.
Yeah, because we did a lot. I mean, again, Deviant springs to mind.
Exactly. Short list of nominees, so I can read them out. Deviant, obviously. Houses of the Unholy. Creature from the Black Lagoon Lives. They're going to get a special mention later.
They're going to get a special award.
Universal Monsters Dracula.
Yeah.
Alien. Phantom Road. And this one, I left to last because I didn't think of it as a horror until I was looking through the
Something
list.
Under the Trees?
Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees.
So, I don't know that is a horror.
There's a lot of horror in it.
It's more of a psychological thriller, though.
But then I think you're really splitting hairs there when it's like, at what point does a psychological thriller become a horror?
Because the issue is that I have that if we put it in the horror category, it's not going to win. Because to me, it's not a horror. But it's also my favourite one out of the bunch.
But and this is what I mean is counting it as a horror or not. Because it's a lot of gore, it's not psychological thriller gore is not normally as gory as this comic was.
Yeah, but remember, the gore was so heavily stylized in a way that made it not feel like a horror. It didn't feel like a horror to me.
But like comparing it to when I think of these kind of genres and stuff, I was like, film is like the quickest comparison in terms of like genres and stuff. There's a lot of really stylized horror. Like just because it's stylized doesn't make it not horror.
I think it should be an honorable mention because if that's in that category, it's my clear winner. It was one of my favorite things we read this year. I thought it was a phenomenally well-told story. The art style was incredible. For anyone who didn't listen to the episode, maybe you're a new listener. It's illustrated as though it were like a 1960s, 1970s children's book, but it's about a serial killer who is a bear.
Yes. There was a name for it, I can't remember what it was, but it's like a type of bear, but it's like
anthropomorphic.
No, there was like a specific toy company that makes like children's books of that style.
Yeah.
Can't remember what it's called, but it's basically like the most cute, like not even cute, but like quaint. Like they're not even overly cute. They're just like
think like Wind in the Willows.
Yes, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think when we're deciding whether it counts or not, like again, like looking to films and stuff, I equate to like what's the big kind of serial killer type films because that's that kind of genre. If when you go into subgenres, so biggest one is like Silence of the Lambs, and was it not? I might have got this wrong. I'm genuinely asking. Was it not at a certain quiz where one of the questions was about Oscar-winning horror films?
Yes, I did write a pub quiz question where I confirmed that Silence of the Lambs was the first horror film to win an Oscar.
And that's less gore than Beneath the Trees.
I don't know. It just doesn't feel like a horror to me, mate.
But then what is the point of a horror? Like a
to
sense
scare
of I wouldn't even necessarily. Well, what is scaring? It's like a sense of unease. Like I remember there's that one page that really got to me in Beneath the Trees. It's where the guy that she's abducted and like chloroformed, and then he's just in parts, like separated parts.
Yeah.
And it's that how quickly it went from a good Samaritan just being like, hey, can I help you with that? To, oh, he's not a person anymore. He's a bunch of body parts.
He was a duck, wasn't he?
Exactly.
He was a ducky.
Looked delicious. But
yeah.
But
eat
my
that
point
over some fried rice.
But we are making light of that. But my point being that, like gave me the same sense of feeling as a scary horror would, like just a sense of unease, like unnerving kind of feeling, anxiety, like in the best possible way.
So I'm going to give you. I'm going to take this out of my own hands. What I'm going to say, is that if we decide that it's not a horror, my vote would be for Deviant, which, despite having that one moment of Jank face, was phenomenal.
Yes.
If Under the Trees is a horror, that would be my vote.
But then comes the question, and I think we'll talk more about Deviant now. What makes Deviant a horror but not Beneath the Trees?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very valid point, Ryan. It's a valid point that I don't have a good answer to. I think for me, the art style and the sort of left-of-field presentation of Beneath the Trees disqualifies it as a horror. Whereas Deviant is a very nailed on, I could see it as a horror flick.
But then with Beneath the Trees, it's the point of it is the art and the style is different very intentionally. So it's taking like a horror base and putting a new coat of paint on it.
Yeah.
But it's the whole fucking Ship of Theseus thing. It's like if you replace the broom and the brush, but if you put like a new style over it, does it change the genre, or is it still retain its horror? Because that's why the new style's there.
Should we get Wikipedia to answer it for us?
What how it describes it as.
Yeah.
All right. It might not be, to be fair, it might be too small a thing to be mentioned on Wikipedia.
It'll have a Wikipedia page. I'm confident it'll have my partner was doing her family history recently, and people in her family have Wikipedia pages. Admittedly, one of them was the Bishop of London, but
I was gonna say that's kind of different case. It's not a indie comic.
By the way, plot twist, and I don't know if we're gonna leave this in. I'll leave this up to Ryan. But you've definitely met one you want to marry when her relatives aren't just a bunch of farmers from Norfolk, but one of them was bloody John Fletcher, who wrote with William Shakespeare, and then his granddad was also the Bishop of London. And there was apparently she's related to the mayor of Norwich during the Ketch Rebellion.
Wow. Well, I'll leave that in if you want me to leave it in.
I mean, I feel sorry for her.
What, not being family of inbred farmers?
Well, no, at the prospect of mixing her genes with mine.
Well, to be fair, you're the prestigious co-host of a comic book podcast.
Well,
so,
and this is what lured her in.
On the downside, though, Beneath the Trees does not have a Wikipedia page.
Oh, fuck!
So we're going to
make one.
The next best thing,
Can
Amazon.
Can we? Yeah, do that.
Because if it's not on Wikipedia, it's on Amazon.
But while you're doing that, I'm going to do the calls to action early.
Right, to make a Wikipedia page.
Yeah, illiterates, mobilise. Tell you what, if one of the illiterates, and I'm going to go on record with this, if one of the illiterates makes a Wikipedia page for Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, and sends me a screenshot to the Comic Literate email address, I will buy a comic, one issue of a comic of my choice, and I will make Ryan sign it with me, and we will send it to you. We will ruin a comic with our signatures and send it to you if one of the illiterates makes a Wikipedia page. I'm mobilizing our audience.
Well, good luck with that, because there's some previous winners of 2023's awards who are still weighing on some medals. So.
Right, look, yeah. If it's for one of the illiterates, I'll do anything.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at the Amazon page, and it is described as scary. It live, laugh, shed blood. That's the tagline. That's a very horror-esque tagline. It doesn't say horror, but it doesn't say psychological thriller either.
Doesn't say horror.
I feel like I've made quite a few reference cases for why it should be a horror. I mean, Silence of the Lambs, the gore compared to the Deviant.
Well, then it's a horror and it wins.
Okay, fair enough.
It's a horror and it's our winner.
I will graciously accept.
I love that my reason for disqualifying it wasn't that I didn't like it, it's that it would be unfair to the other candidates.
But also, we've got to split some hairs here when it comes to genre and eligibility and all that bollocks. So yeah, the listeners deserve that level of attentiveness.
I think they do.
And also, Beneath the Trees was great. So
it was fabulous.
Here it gets at least one award. Maybe more later. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe.
And just for some mentions, Phantom Road was weird, kind of all over the place.
Terrible.
Yeah, just Lost-esque, like mystery box bollocks.
It had a lot of good elements, though. I remember liking a lot of things about it, just not the execution.
Yeah, I think that was our summarized review,
Was it?
basically. Yeah, like there's interesting stuff here. I'm just bored. Like,
Yeah.
that was kind of it.
What were the other ones?
Alien. That was just boring.
It was bland.
Aliens, but boring somehow.
That was definitely very much in our SEO tie-in era.
Yes.
Like, that's something that we probably wouldn't have even covered later on in the year.
We're not going to be doing that, but at some point next year, we are going to be doing Avengers versus Aliens.
Oh,
and I'm
fuck's
really looking
sake.
forward. No, it's written by Jonathan Hickman.
I don't love these tie-in titles, man.
It's going to be good. It's Hickman. Come on.
He's
He's
had
earned
s-
some goodwill.
Yeah, but he's also had some misses with me recently, hasn't he?
Only one, that Doom comic.
Which wasn't very good.
Yeah, but you could tell he wasn't like, I'm going to make a good story. It was like, that'd be cool if we did this art. I'll just put together a story and whack it
Yeah,
out. You could
fair
tell he
enough.
wasn't trying. Universal Monsters Dracula. That was an interesting one.
Good.
Yep. Creature of the Black Lagoon. We'll mention them later.
Atrocious.
Houses of the Unholy. Very horror-esque. Again, serial killer-esque, but the devil element made it very much a horror.
Yeah.
I like that kind of comic, especially by that creative team, which is Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. Wasn't their best work.
We didn't love it, did we?
No.
No.
But compared to every other comics, like good still.
Yeah.
And
Definitely like, sort of top end of the mid, like C tier,
Yeah.
you know?
and the Deviant, Christmas serial killer.
That's definitely my honourable, that would be my honourable mention. That would
Yeah.
be my like close runner up.
Yeah, absolutely worthy of that. And what's interesting about that as well, for an episode when that came out, it's like, what do I call it? Christmas serial killer stuff. Turns out if you put serial killer in anything on YouTube, it does pretty well.
Oh, does it?
Does better than your other
That's
stuff.
really
if you have one
interesting.
serial killer thing.
The fucking true crime girlie's got a hold of it.
Not just the true crime. I mean, bloody Dexter's coming back in full force now.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. It's one of those shows that, this is a tangent, I'll mark in the time codes. But I really loved Dexter when it was like first coming out. And then
Yeah.
that's one of those shows that really slowly declined, like to a really bad
Right.
end. But it's one of those shows where they didn't do anything with it for years. But in that time, it was on streaming services
Right.
doing good numbers. So now like whoever owned the rights, they're like, by the way, Dexter does really well on streaming, and they go, what? Do we own that? Oh, we can make more stuff for that. So now they've turned out a sequel series and now a prequel series.
Right.
They're doing another sequel series. Like it's all coming back now. But again, serial killer stuff does really well.
Yeah, it does. The people are just mystified by it, aren't they?
Yeah, they're fascinated by, again, like a lot of this stuff is about, monsters and the fascination with them and all that. The Deviant is literally about that, to an extent as well.
Oh, the Deviant was so good. I'm so upset I don't get to give it the horror awards.
But it was very close.
Yeah,
really
it's
close.
just that Something Beneath the Trees was so good.
I'll tell you what, but we said we'd done the gag ones.
Yeah.
But I think we could do another little one, right?
Yeah.
Best Christmas comic. There's two contenders. It's The Deviant, which we've talked about already, and it's Batman Silent Night.
Oh, but I love both.
Well,
They were both excellent.
and this is the problem now, you got
Oh, fuck. I really liked both, Ryan.
no award is easy to win, especially on this podcast.
No, where we give them away over a game of chance.
But you've got to earn it.
Yeah, you've got to earn your right for us to play a game of rock,
You've
paper,
got
scissors.
to earn the right to be remembered being talked about for an hour by Jamie.
Yeah, right? There's a lot of things I've talked about for an hour and forgotten entirely.
I mean, who haven't we all? But at least we've recorded
Who
ours.
haven't we all?
Who haven't we all? I think I've heard it both ways. So, which are you going to pick? I'll leave this one to you because I really worked hard to get Beneath the Trees the horror award.
Deviant.
Okay.
Deviant takes it. It was really good, Ryan.
Fair enough. Do I mention a little bit about the Santa Batman one, if this is the only part we talk about it?
I mean, it was Santa Claus saving the day.
That, and it was the best version of that, I felt.
And I want to give it to that for Daddy Santa.
Yeah.
Because Santa was...
Dilf Santa.
Oh, Dilf Santa, man.
And it was fun.
It was
fun.
fun.
It played with the conventions of like Batman. It's like, yeah, I know Santa. Like we met, we go way back. And Superman being like, you didn't tell me you knew Santa.
Yeah.
Like,
This is the thing. It had so many fun moments and it had a wonderful message and that ending was beautiful. It was really good.
the best superhero Santa crossover we've done, because we've only done that in the Marvel 80s Christmas special.
I think that's unfair though, because the 80s one was very 80s.
It was, but it didn't. It was an anthology, so it didn't do as much with it. Whereas this one, they could have just done an anthology, but instead they were like, no, let's make a story. Let's have an antagonist. Let's have some
Wasn't it like a full six issue volume as well?
4 issues.
4 issues, okay.
Bloody felt like 6 issues. That's not fair. I just wanted to make the joke. That's
not fair.
It was
great.
all right. I had fun with it.
Weirdly, if there wasn't a particular superhero who had my heart in a very meaningful way, it would be up for the best DC award.
Well, are we doing best Marvel and DC?
We might as well.
I was just going to do best superhero.
That kind of fits.
I don't want to be like, Marvel, you get your own category, so you're guaranteed a win. It's like, no, let's make them fight. You would know this if you'd seen it. The Godzilla King Kong thesis, let them fight.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Although, there's some stuff that I've really loved from Marvel this year.
And DC.
Like, they've both put out some really good stuff this year.
No one said this job was easy.
No, it's hard work.
And this is why we do it, to bring it to the people.
Yeah.
So do you want me to read off should we do superhero or non-superhero first?
Are we already in like best ofs?
It kind of is, yeah. I mean, there's not that many categories.
We've already been recording 10 minutes, mate.
Been half an hour.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, we should probably get on with it then.
Let's speed this up.
Should we do best non-superhero first?
Yeah, that's what I thought. Because, the superhero stuff is like our bread and butter. So it's, So non-superhero stuff, quick read through. Again, some of the ones we've already been over. The Deviant, House of the Unholy, Creature of the Black Lagoon. We'll get to them later. Universal Monsters Dracula, James Bond 007, which you were a big fan of, I understand. Alien from 2024, Phantom Road, Transformers, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, The Cull, Void Rivals, and World Tree, or W0 World 33.
I remember liking World Tree.
I did not like it. I thought it was very edgelordy, kind of like, I didn't like the whole, there was good stuff to it.
I like the CGI art though.
Yeah, the art was fun. I wouldn't say it was good, but there was pages where I was like, whoa, that's interesting. There was excessive gore, which I'm normally a fan of, but it didn't feel earned in this. It felt like it was just happening for the sake of having violence. The explanation of like, I dug through the bottom of the internet and then I kept going and I broke through to the other side. I was like, this is bollocks. And I know there's going to be people who'll be like, like superheroes and like Superman can fly. Well, why is that fine and this is not fine? It's like, if you tell me this is how the universe works, great, I'm on board. But when you tell me this is your universe, but he dug through the bottom of the internet, I'm like, well, that's bollocks. Like, I don't...
Okay, yeah, that's how... I mean, again, I'm not going to argue too hard for it because there's a couple of other bits and bobs that I think inch it out anyway.
Yeah, that's fair.
Transformers.
Yeah. Also, World Tree, gratuitous nudity. It was completely pointless. She has to be naked the entire time. Why?
Wait, no. World Tree's not the one I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of the one where the kids go through that magic door.
You're thinking of the Cull.
I'm thinking of the Cull. Yeah,
which are like weird kind of joint name stuff.
The Cull was good. World Tree was just fine. The Cull was good.
Okay, so the Cull, we're on the Cull now, and the Cull had a great art style that could be a contender for art, for best art. The story was good, not great.
Yeah.
It was very much was it Stranger Things meets Narnia?
Yeah.
Which was fine. There was a bit of cliched, right? Well, it had a little bit of cliched writing. It all had some really good, really naturalistic feeling writing as well, or dialogue specifically. But then there was like a bit of a rah-rah speech at the end where they were like...
It wasn't consistently good enough to be the best non-superhero comic of the year. Because bear in mind... This is going up there with like 8 Billion Genies.
Yes.
Which was our winner last year.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, it wasn't that level of good. It was good and it was really enjoyable and it was like all female writing and art, wasn't it? Like it was, objectively quite special.
Well, here's the thing. Even though there's not another... There's another one in another category, but the writer Kelly Thompson, I don't think it's her best work from the year. And we'll talk about what I think is her best work in another category.
Yeah.
So just on that alone, it's like, I couldn't give anything for that. It was good. It's worth trying if you're into the premise, but definitely not an award winner, I would say.
Yeah.
Even though I think it was nominated for an Eisner Award, so maybe we just have higher standards than the Eisner Awards,
Yeah, maybe.
So Void Rivals.
No.
I wasn't a huge... It was underwhelming. I was expecting more, especially from Robert Kirkman. Like, he should be making better stuff.
Not even the best thing we've seen that year from that universe.
Exactly, yeah. So, null and void Rivals. But for anyone listening...
Again, on reflection, I would like to see what it's warming up to.
Oh yeah. I want to try more stuff from that from the Energon universe.
Well, moreover, we've had 6 months worth of issues of it. I'd like to give the second volume a crack.
Yeah, we could do that.
And just see where it goes, because again, they are hard booting a whole new comic book universe, and it is a cool concept, and it's a fun idea. I'd like to see where some of the G.I. Joe stuff goes. I think you and I will be a little bit under-equipped to review the G.I. Joe stuff. Like, I'd really like to have an American correspondent there with me.
But then we were under-equipped for Transformers, and
we'll being children of the 80s.
Yeah, and we'll speak about that next, because I had a very different reaction to that. But Void Rivals, it was just underwhelming. I expected more from Robert Kirkman. He's written 2 of my favorite comics ever.
Yeah.
So for this to just kind of be okay, I was like, well, that's a letdown.
Yeah, I mean, coming off the back of Invincible as well.
Yeah, 100%. And Walking Dead, come on. So yeah, definitely not Void Rivals.
How have we not talked about The Walking Dead yet?
It's because it's a huge one. It's like, where do you start? I mean, obviously you started issue number 1, but you know what I mean?
We're both big fans. We've both read it in its entirety, haven't we?
I corrected someone on Reddit the other day because they were talking about the ending and they got it wrong.
Wow.
And I actually had to, I rarely comment on Reddit or anything, but I was like, he's got 2 things completely mixed up here.
I think because it's not currently releasing, and because of the TV show and the just immense popularity of it, I think that is one that we would have to have a special episode in mind, and just over the course of 6 months both be reading it.
That could be a 200th episode or something big.
Or 150, do you know what I mean? A big episode.
Yeah.
Because it held a very special place in my heart for a long time.
One of my favourite comics of all time.
But it also jumped its own shark a bit, didn't it?
I mean, the comic, I think, kept quality much better than the TV show did. I stopped watching the TV show because it just fell off so hard.
I never started.
Great first couple of seasons. They're great. Stop after season 3, maybe 4.
I remember going around a friend's house, and it was one of those, those big share houses you have in your 20s. Where there's 6 mates all sharing a house, and they all crowded around the TV to watch this first episode of a new season of The Walking Dead. And I sat with them because I was like, I really love the comics. And it just left me feeling a bit meh, so I never bothered with it.
Yeah, that's fair. It's not for everyone, but
no.
I really enjoyed it it depends what season that episode was.
Yeah.
But yeah, great first couple of series, definitely worth trying. And then after that, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, which we have talked about extensively, I think it's definitely a contender for best non-superhero.
It's a real contender.
Yeah. And, we talked about it earlier, refer to that for the reasons why. It's just great. It's a great meeting of styles. I love serial killer shit. You love the art. It's great.
Yeah, no, it was just phenomenal.
And now one that I was excited to talk about, Transformers.
Yeah, me too.
There's one very specific reason why I think it's a contender for best of anything.
Yeah.
I went into it not only not knowing anything about, but not giving the slightest shit about the Transformers franchise at all.
I agree.
And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great.
I went into it with low expectations, and fuck, did it blow me away.
Exactly. Now, part of it was written and art by a Daniel Warren Johnson, who I might have a skewed opinion of because he did make a great pro wrestling comic, which we reviewed previously.
Yeah.
My enjoyment of this is only partly because of that.
Yeah.
Not fully.
No, but everything. The dialogue was a bit overblown in places, but it served its purpose really well.
And felt appropriate.
Yeah. The art was great. Those action scenes were phenomenal. It ticked all of the boxes for everything you would want from that kind of tie-in.
Colors were fantastic.
Really it looked bright, stunning, didn't it?
Vibrant colors, and while also being a bit muted as well. It was a masterful use of because they can't use really bright colors because those are more expensive for comic printing and whatnot, but it still felt really vibrant and really certain panels you were like, whoa, it's really bright yellow backgrounds and for no reason.
And it was suspenseful.
Yes, I cared about the characters. I started learning the names of Transformers, which I never thought I'd do. And I've seen some of the bloody what's his name films, Michael Bay films. I've seen some of them. I still, apart from Optimus Prime and what's the other one, Megalodon or whatever the other one's name is, but I couldn't tell you Megatron. I couldn't tell you any other names.
Yeah,
but then when I read that, I was like, oh no, Starscream! I was actually invested.
Yeah, they knocked it out of the park, didn't they?
I'm definitely, if we're talking non-superhero, it's definitely up there in terms of contenders. So far through the list, Beneath the Trees and Transformers, I think.
Yeah.
Phantom Road, no. Talked about it earlier.
Weak.
Just boring.
Weak.
Alien, no. You made Aliens boring somehow.
Yeah, Alien was piss poor, wasn't it?
Yeah. James Bond 007
was good. I remember it now. I remember sitting and reading it because we did it in like August, September, didn't we?
Yes, yeah.
I remember really liking it.
Yeah, it was surprisingly good. I went into it kind of interested to what it was going to be because it was James Bond written by Garth Ennis.
Yeah.
Garth Ennis of, for anyone who doesn't know, biggest fame of writing The Boys, Preacher, the most violent Punisher series, Punisher Max series. So knowing that's what he was kind of most well known for, thinking like, how is he going to make James Bond ultra violent? And he didn't. Like, it was violent where it needed to be, but it wasn't overly violent.
He made it good.
He made it good. He made it modern day grounded while still feeling like that 60s vibe.
Yeah.
The dialogue all felt like natural. There wasn't like quips or anything. Like when it got violent, it was like the fight scenes. Bond wasn't like, like make a quip about the crazy way he just killed a henchman. He's like, you see him lock in when shit goes down. He's like, just gets on with it and like really efficient. Like it was a really great balance of all the things that make Bond like well known, but also making it feel like a new version. Like I don't know how he did it. Like
I think it's a real contender.
Exactly, and that's
I think it is
one of the best. And we're both Bond fans. Like I'm the films, you're the books.
Yeah,
but it's so we have that kind of extra like a good thing of a thing we already like.
Yeah, like I'm currently like most of the way through Goldfinger. That's what I'm reading right now, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
And not to bring back too much, but like I was saying, the fact that we were existing fans of this franchise and enjoyed the book, it's kind of another reason why Transformers kind of might take it,
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? Transformers and Bond are there for diametrically opposed reasons.
Exactly.
Bond is there because they took something that we liked and gave us more of it in a way that we didn't.
When you think we might be a bit bored of Bond by now. Yeah.
And then Transformers gave us something that neither of us had crazy amounts of experience with, but really made us invest in it.
Yeah.
And then Beneath the Trees just blew us away. Like, this is a really hard...
Yeah.
Because those are the three, aren't they? Those are our three.
Well, the rest of the list is Universal Monsters Dracula.
Which was good,
Enjoyed
but not...
it, fun, didn't blow me away. Maybe an art contender, maybe a panel layout contender, because they did some really interesting panels. That's going to be the hardest one to recall. Yeah. Creature of the Black Lagoon, we will get to them later, don't you worry.
It keeps coming up.
Yeah. Houses of the Unholy was, again... good, but not the best stuff by that creative team.
I don't think I liked it as much as you.
I was interested. That's kind of the highest level I'm willing to go.
It was page-turny, wasn't it?
Yes.
I remember liking it. It was page-turny. It was really well-paced. There was enough intrigue. The story pulled itself along. It just didn't feel special.
Yes, that's exactly, yeah. I would agree with you on that. Again, comparing to the last thing we read by those guys, Where the Body Was, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
So then comparing it to the last thing they wrote, it's like, oh, this doesn't meet that standard.
Yeah.
So you're already, if we hadn't read Where the Body Was, maybe we might be higher on this, but that's how you cannot help but compare stuff to, stuff made by the same people. And last but not least, obviously, The Deviant. How does that compare in the non-superhero contenders?
I don't think it's a contender.
Yeah. It's very unique, like its own, like obviously it's non-superhero, it's why it's there. It's very kind of its own unique
thing. I mean, part of me, to keep this interesting, part of me wants to pull the horror stuff out of this and say that the non-superhero is its own...
Yeah, as separate to horror. And that's fair enough. So we could take out Deviant, Dracula, Creature from Black Lagoon. Don't worry, we'll mention them later. But do we take out Beneath the Trees? Because that won the horror award.
Oh, I know. And it's so hard because... And this is why I don't know where to place it. That's the thing. I don't know where... I mean... Non-superhero is so non-specific that it captures a lot of different genres.
And the only reason we're doing it is because comic book as a medium is so dominated by superhero content.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason why we're doing this, and here's everything else.
I think I wasn't expecting this episode to be particularly interesting for me.
Or difficult.
No, because it's like, we're just talking about what we liked and what we didn't like. But it's really making us bore down into how we feel about comic books and what they do for us.
It's difficult when you actually have to compare things and say what was better than the other. If we're ranking them.
I mean, we can't lift all the horror stuff out because
Beneath the Trees is a contender.
It's a real contender.
So if Beneath the Trees is a contender, by the same logic that we had with the horror award, Deviant doesn't stand a chance because it's already competed against Beneath the Trees in our arena of comic books quality.
But it's also fantastic.
It's great. And we are taking it, we're not giving it the award, but it's still a great comic. We still recommend it.
I mean, it's good enough that it's had 2 honorable mentions.
Yes, and we keep going back and forth on it. It's that good. So that's something. So the best non-superhero, the contenders, we've whittled them down to Beneath the Trees, Transformers, James Bond. I think of not World Tree, not Void Rivals, not The Cull, not Phantom Road, Alien, or the other horror stuff. So yeah, it's those 3. It's Beneath the Trees, Transformers, or James Bond.
My heart wants me to say Beneath the Trees, but my head wants me to say James Bond.
See, this is even interesting because I was going to have to go with Transformers, this puts us in a pickle. Never said that before. But in terms of debating them, like, what did we have the kind of most fun with? What were we kind of most
I mean, it's
excited
interesting
about?
because Transformers and Bond are similar in as much as they're both action.
Yeah.
They're both there to keep pages turning. They're both making something fresh and exciting out of a well-worn franchise.
And Beneath the Trees was a really great original idea in a world where it feels like everything's been done already. But then, to be fair, these days, original is just, well, if I take this genre and mash them together.
I think last year we went with a very graphic novel feeling comic.
Yes.
I think you might be right.
You think Transformers?
I think it might be I think Transformers might be our fucking comic of the year, Ryan.
Our non-superhero comic
Yeah, our
of the year.
non-superhero comic of the year.
And we know now what the contenders will be when we do best overall comic.
Yeah,
because that's how we're whittling them down. So yeah, Transformers. I total agreement. Good on you, Daniel Warren Johnson, and can't wait to see what you do next.
Yeah, fantastic work. I mean, the best comic of the year is going to be one of the winners.
Exactly.
And so it just, like, Beneath the Trees just keeps coming up in contention, doesn't it? Because it's so well written and so well imagined.
Yeah, it'll definitely be considered for being the best horror. Like, that gets entry into the finals.
I think what I liked about, in retrospect, what I like about Bond and Transformers is they don't feel like they're trying to elevate the medium.
No, just a good story.
Yeah, they're just trying to be fun, well-written comic books. And looking back on last year, some of the things that, particularly 8 Billion Genies is the one that comes to mind. And that was our overall winner of the year, wasn't it?
Oh, yes. Well deserved. Amazing.
It was
comic.
phenomenal, but it felt more graphic novel-y.
And with that as well, like, reminded myself of, I was really decisive. I was really trying to decide between that and Human Target.
Yes.
And I remember saying, maybe I checked the tape, maybe it's different, but I remember saying, my heart says Human Target. It's my favorite, but I had to kind of step back and be like, but what's objectively the best? Like, I think 8 Billion Genies just achieved more with less.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing with Transformers. They achieved something really cool. And while the Bond book was interesting, it was like this standalone cool thing, and it was Garth Ennis getting his hands on Bond. Imagine like Tarantino getting his hands on a Bond film.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of what it is, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's the dark, gritty edge on the fringes of this world getting to play with a character like Bond. And so that's interesting, but more interesting, I think, is rebooting a full comic book universe using the Transformers franchise. And so I think it just has to edge it out. But that category is unfortunately close.
Yeah.
Like if you went to a comic book store tomorrow and saw a complete volume of any one of those 3 comics and picked it up, you would be in for a good time.
Yeah, if you got those 3,
they're all phenomenal.
Exactly. You would think comics are amazing.
Yeah, totally.
Because you wouldn't read any the rest of the schlop that comes out that we don't even read, that we don't get around to. So, that being difficult, don't know if this is going to be better or worse.
No, I know my winner for this one.
Best superhero comic.
Yep, I have a clear winner.
Okay, do you want me to go through the list, or do you want me to say your winner first?
No, go through the list.
All right, so Poison Ivy, Predator versus Wolverine, Marvel's Immortal Thor, Wonder Woman, Justice League Godzilla Kong, Sensational She-Hulk, Nightwing, I'm just looking at Jamie, Ultimate Spider-Man, Birds of Prey.
Oh, God, that was good, though.
Shazam.
Forgettable.
Deadpool.
Forgettable.
John Constantine, Dead in America.
I know you liked that one.
I liked it more than you. I'm not, like, putting up for an award or anything. The Penguin. Ultimate X-Men. Ultimate Black Panther. I've mentioned here the issue ones of DC's Absolutes, the Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman.
Yeah.
It was one issue. None of them particularly blew
Let's
us away.
group them together.
Yeah, but it's probably not going to come up. The Ultimates.
Yeah.
Doom 2024
Mm.
and the Batman Santa Claus Silent Night.
So I don't think we have enough time to go through all of these in detail because it's such a big category.
No. So let's knock some off. Like it's just a no. We're not going to talk about it. Predator versus Wolverine, bit of fun, but that's it.
Yeah.
Immortal Thor. I was expecting more. It was interesting, but it didn't blow me away.
No, I agree.
Poison Ivy, really interesting stuff. Again. Kelly Thompson, great writer. Not even her best work on this list.
Yeah.
So, I enjoyed it. I'd recommend it, but it's not a contender.
No.
Wonder Woman, really enjoyed it, but also had some glaring issues. And again, Tom King, he's done better stuff. Not maybe this year, but definitely in previous years.
Yeah, I don't think it's reasonable to give it to that. Birds of Prey.
Birds of Prey was great.
Birds of Prey was fantastic.
And again, I did not care about the characters before I read it.
No, and watching them fight Wonder Woman, again, The Birds of Prey is probably my favorite Wonder Woman comic of the year.
Yeah, well, the Amazon. Yeah, she was in it, wasn't she? Yeah. No, potentially. It was definitely better. The problem with Wonder Woman, the Tom King one, was it just had way too much narration.
Yeah.
To the point where I kept reading. I don't know if I mentioned this. I might have mentioned it already. I read past where we left off.
Right, you haven't mentioned
because it's Tom King. And there was a point where she's fighting a bunch of supervillains who the shady, the secret king of America, or whoever it was, had hired in this plan to basically capture her. And at one point, she's fighting, I can't remember her name, but I think it might be something like Gigantress or something. But basically like a giant woman, literally like a giant. And they're fighting, and there's these big boxes of narration up front. I'm like, get out of the way. I'm literally trying to see the fight that you are covering with your narration boxes. There's something cool happening that I'm really interested in.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. And it's just these walls of text. I'm like, why?
I'm not saying I wouldn't recommend Wonder Woman, but it's certainly not in contention for the best of the year.
No. Unfortunately. Again, very strong comic. Really strong superhero comic. The better written than most of the stuff comes out. But just really glaring issues.
So, Birds of Prey.
I
think Birds of Prey might be a contender.
Definitely a strong contender. Again, I didn't care about the characters beforehand, so the fact that it did that at all.
That bar scene?
Yeah, really good.
The bar scene was phenomenal.
The panel layout.
Yeah.
Really great panels there.
Yeah.
Really innovative, interesting stuff.
I think it'll come up in that one.
Yes. Oh, 100%, yeah. Justice League, Godzilla Kong, corporate synergy.
Literally don't even remember reading it, Ryan.
Sensational She-Hulk, unfortunately very mid.
Yeah.
Just didn't do much.
It had all the elements as well.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to like She-Hulk, and I really want to find some more. It's not a contender, unfortunately. It put me onto the character in a way that has made me really want to delve into her back catalogue a bit.
Yeah, I've read better She-Hulk stuff, so that by a wide margin. So yeah, it's definitely not touching awards. Nightwing.
Oh, well, it's a contender, mate. It's
a contender.
It's a fucking contender.
It was so good that we jumped in randomly from a series that's been going since 2016. We read in 2024. We read 5 issues, so we jumped way in the middle, and it was a lot of fun.
Dick Grayson is Batman's sidekick turned into his own superhero. He has no powers. He has no business being as cool as he is. And that,
But then, to be fair, Batman's really cool.
Yeah, well, no, Batman's not cool. He's brooding and miserable.
I'll rephrase it. Batman's one of the most popular superheroes of all time.
Yeah, Dick Grayson's cool. Dick Grayson is cool.
Yes, he is cool.
That's the thing. Dick Grayson's cool. For me, it has to be on that list, mate.
Oh yeah, it's a contender. I said, we jumped in and it was really fun. We just jumped in for 5 issues, had a great time. I wouldn't say it was. I will say it didn't blow me away. I had a lot of fun with it. I wasn't coming away being like, oh my God, that's one of the best comics I've ever read in my life. Yeah.
What I will say, because there's some things that you're about to hit in the list that have to take it from me.
Okay.
And it's some of the Ultimate stuff.
Right. Of course.
I think had Marvel not hit the nail on the head so well with the Ultimates this year, that fully would have been my favorite.
Fair enough. So honorable mention.
Yeah,
Definitely
no,
honorable
Nightwing,
mention.
It has to be in our shortlist because it was really good.
Tell you what we can do. We can make another sneaky little category.
Yeah.
Best single issue of the year.
Yeah.
And we can kind of maybe steal the Eisner Awards criteria, whatever they use.
Yeah.
There's the one issue of Nightwing, and it's the reason we read it in the first place. So we're not oh, they've got their real fingers on the pulse. They're finding this great one issue amongst all the comics that came out 2024. The Eisner Awards founder. That's how we whatever. But there's one issue of Nightwing. I can't remember the issue number. Google it. You'll be able to find it really easily. It's the issue that's entirely from first person view. So the entire comic is Nightwing waking up, and you just see it's all from his perspective.
I think it's the first issue of the run.
It was. I think I picked to start there, so we started with that comic, and then it was like a run. So what it did, it was in between runs.
Yeah.
So I think we did that, and then it was like a 5-issue run happened after that, or a story, a 5-issue story.
I remember. But no, it was good.
Yes.
It was really special. It's the one thing from the year that I keep meaning to go back to and just revisit properly. So yeah, it has to be in there.
Yeah, but as I said, if it doesn't win anything else, it officially wins single issue of the year for that first person view.
We're stealing an Eisner Award. Yeah, single issue of the year. It's phenomenal. What's
they got
next?
the Eisner Award. Now they got the real award.
Now they got the People's Award.
Yes. Ultimate Spider-Man.
Good.
Really, one of my favorites.
Definitely in contention.
Yep.
But unfortunately, not my favorite from the Ultimates.
That's fair. I really liked it because I've been reading a bunch of slop Spider-Man comics for the past few years.
And this is the thing, isn't it? That
it reignited my passion for the character.
Yeah, and sometimes actually when we're talking about the superhero kind of category, and when Ryan and I are having conversations about superhero comics more generally, the threshold for us thinking something is fantastic is a lot lower with superhero stuff because there's so much crap.
Yes.
There's so much white noise in that sort of market that something that's on the good side of mid can really stick out. I'm not suggesting this is just mid. I think it was good.
Yes. It's my view is definitely altered, affected by my just wanting a good Spider-Man comic.
And it was a fresh take on the character.
Yeah.
Ironically,
Jonathan Hickman, I already love his style.
Yeah. It was a Hickman banger, wasn't it?
Yes.
It was an absolute Hickman banger. Unfortunately, there is something else, which, to be honest with you, I think you're going to argue with me on, because I remember your response not being as warm to it as mine. We both thought it was amazing, but I liked it more.
Okay, well, we'll get...
And it's the same with Spider-Man. We both thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
Pun intended.
Amazing Spider-Man.
But you liked that a bit more than I did.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Birds of Prey we spoke about. Shazam, unfortunately forgettable. It was a bit of fun. That's the best I can say.
We had fun with it, didn't we? But it was all too convenient, and
just a bit of fun.
I didn't like the main villain, but essentially being anti-Shazam.
Yes, which unfortunately is just no. The villain was the gods, wasn't it? Black Adam. He showed up a bit later, but yeah. And again,
it was good, but it wasn't outstanding.
If you're really into the Shazam character, you'll probably enjoy it. That's like the most I could recommend it. Deadpool 2024, unfortunately, just nothing.
It's a shame.
Nothing.
It's a real shame that Marvel created all that buzz around that character, and while they were busy doing that, were putting out not great Deadpool comics. I think Deadpool's a bit stale.
Yeah, apparently, I think I've read somewhere that I think Joe Kelly is coming back to it. He was one of the earlier writers.
Is he one of the ones we read read in our big...
I think he did like the 90s one.
Oh, that was good.
Yeah, so potentially, I want bloody Jerry Duggan and Brian Posehn back because they are the goats of writing Deadpool. They are just so great.
And it pains me because Deadpool's really popular right now. He's a really hot commodity. But it's because of the films. It's not because of what's happening in the comics.
Yeah, no, exactly. He got famous before that because of the comics. Because the panels from the comics were shared around like memes. Yeah, it's like a funny panel was shared around, and people were like, "Oh, a superhero is really funny." That with early internet, that was stuff that got shared around, and people were like, "Oh my god, this is interesting." And that's what got me into reading any comics. I started with Deadpool comics for exactly that reason. So yeah, I'm big shame. John Constantine, Dead in America. I enjoyed it. Nowhere near an award contender.
I didn't like it, did I?
No, I liked it way more than you, and yeah, so fair. If you like Constantine, it's just more of the same.
Yeah.
And I can say that as a Constantine fan. So yeah. The Penguin. And unfortunately, if this was TV show of the year, that would absolutely beat everything because the Penguin TV show was fucking amazing.
The comic was good.
Comic was good. It was fine. Again, Tom King, high bar, didn't meet it.
Yeah, I remember On reflection, I think I may have been a bit unfair to it. I think it took a really unlikable character and had us follow him in a way that...
I was interested.
Yeah, this is it.
But then, my view is also skewed because after that, I watched the Penguin TV show, which was one of the best TV shows I've ever seen.
Yeah,
so I was compared to the comic, I'm like, who cares?
I don't think it's up there.
No.
What was our superhero comic of the year last year? Was Tom King. It was Supergirl.
Yeah, Supergirl. And again, I think I remember, even though my favorite was Human Target, I felt like Supergirl was the more superhero title. So I think that's why I went with that. And again, Supergirl, amazing, also one of my favorite comics of all time. So it's not like I'm like, fine, I'll give it to them. Like it was worthy of it. Ultimate X-Men.
This is
great comic.
This is my pick.
Your pick for best superhero comic.
Yeah,
that's interesting. It's definitely a contender for me for best art. 100%.
Yeah.
Like we'll get more into that.
So my argument for it. And again, I think my argument for it is going to disqualify it from winning. Because for anyone who doesn't know, it's part of the Ultimate series. It's the kind of spin-off universe that Marvel are doing right now. But it's a Western comic in a manga style. Written by a woman, stunning art. Peach Monoko. It's fantastic. But I think sometimes you felt the story suffered from the same thing that you often think manga suffers from, where things were a bit convenient and a bit oversimplified, didn't you?
Yeah, and that is despite me still really enjoying it.
Yeah.
I think the story, like if you look at story and art as two separate things, I thought it blew me away with the art.
Yeah.
And I was invested in the story, but I wasn't raving about the story as much as the art.
No, so this would be my pick for my favourite.
Right.
But for me, I think there's something else in this list that is as good but more superhero-y.
Something we're going to be more on the same page on.
Yeah, and I think it has to take it. And it's the same way you felt about Human Target and Supergirl last year.
Yes.
Which is that there is one that you preferred, but actually, does it fit the remit as well? No. The thing that I loved about it is that it was a bold take on a mainline Marvel comic.
Yeah, and not only in art, the art style is obviously like really bold and different, but even just the story. Like it's X-Men.
Yeah.
And the main character is not even like a B or a C list X-Men in the main universe. They're like a student character, a new mutant student character who doesn't get any play at all, really.
It would have been so easy for them to take the version of Storm that they threw into the Ultimates.
And Ultimate Black Panther.
And just base it all around her.
Yep.
Or to give us a new Wolverine.
Yeah, or could have been Xavier, Professor X, or...
Could have been X.
Yeah, Cyclops.
No, what's the young female Wolverine?
X-23.
It could have been X-23. Yeah. Like, it could have been a number of things that they did. There's a really rich vein to pull from with the X-Men because it's such a big roster.
Yes.
But they gave us a really bold, fresh, interesting take by a female writer in a Japanese style. It's special, objectively really special, and I definitely think it needs to be on our list for best art.
Yep.
I think it maybe even though it's not won another award, needs to be on our list for best comic because it is really good.
Yes, yeah.
But in terms of a superhero comic, I don't necessarily know that it clicks in well enough because there's another one that I think we're both just going to agree on.
Yeah, I think it's that kind of lane of if someone was listening to this podcast and they were like, oh, I love superhero comics, I'll see what they said for best superhero comic. For us to say this, I feel like the average superhero fan, it'd be like, I wouldn't recommend this as, oh, you like superhero comics? You'll love this.
Yeah.
I would have to be like, do you love superhero comics but want a different take on it?
Yeah.
Then try this. And that's kind of my reasoning.
But it is an honorable mention.
Yes, and it will be strong contender for awards, like 100%.
Yeah.
Ultimate Black Panther, good, not great.
Yeah.
That is my kind of succinct. Like, it wasn't bad in any way, but it didn't really do anything great either.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree.
DC's the Absolute Universe stuff get interesting, but ultimately meh. I'd like to see where it goes. We will come back to them once
in
they've got more issues out.
comparison to the Ultimates, it's
nowhere near.
It's not there.
The Ultimates.
I think this is the one, mate.
I'm in agreement with you, and I tell you what. I went into it just assuming it was Jonathan Hickman.
Right.
When I first saw there was a different writer, Denise Camp, I literally was like, oh no. Like, I was so excited for this. And then as soon as we got into it, I think after issue one takes it's a little building, but by issue 2 or 3, I was like, this is amazing. This is ultimate.
Young Tony Stark as a well-adjusted Iron Man. Thor they didn't do too much interesting with, but he was great.
Yeah.
Cap. Just everything. Yeah, I mean, it fitted into place for me so fucking well.
The Reed Richards Doom and his backstory.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's just
the entire world is just infinitely interesting.
It's everything I want the 616 universe to be.
And it does everything because it's really interesting. It feels new and fresh, but it's the characters you know and love.
Yeah.
Just being heroes, doing good.
And isn't that exactly what we want from superhero comics? We want to see characters that we're familiar with, but also portrayed in fresh new ways.
It's that Simpsons joke. It's like, so you want something old and familiar, but brand new and fresh. It's like, yeah.
And that's exactly what they fucking did.
Exactly, yeah. And that was, I think, my biggest, I've said this on other comics where I'm like, I liked it, I wasn't blown away by it. I was blown away by how they combined, how they made it feel traditional and new at the same time. Like, it was fantastic. Maybe, obviously mentioned for Jonathan Hickman creating the universe, but Denise Camp did a great job just running with it afterwards.
Yeah, this is it. And again, Jonathan Hickman's entry was never going to win this for me because he was teeing everything up.
Yeah, the administration comic.
Yeah, and he gave us this thing that was good, not great.
Yeah.
I know you loved it.
I thought it was great, but I'm very aware that that's my taste. It's a bit of me.
You're more in the weeds, aren't you?
Yeah.
But he introduced it, took a bow, and then stepped off the stage and let this just do its thing. And yeah, they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah. 100%. And a strong contender will be in the finals, I guess.
Yeah.
Doom 2024, it was just a vehicle for some fun art. Maybe an art contender, maybe.
Yeah, because some of those splash panels were beautiful, weren't they?
Exactly. And Batman, Santa Claus, Silent Night. Like, it's a fun Christmas thing. It's not a contender for best comic.
No,
really.
No, not by any means.
No.
I think we have a clear 1 and 2.
Well, so I think I've got the contenders here.
Yeah.
Which is Nightwing.
Yeah.
Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
Ultimate X-Men.
Yeah.
The Ultimates. A lot of Ultimates in there.
Well, yeah, because the Ultimate series has been the most interesting stuff that we've seen in superhero comics this year.
Yeah, 100%. And I think I really liked Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You really liked Ultimate X-Men.
Yeah.
I think those are really good depictions of like what we like in superhero comics. Like those,
absolutely.
Looking at those
Don't
two.
they just show the minutiae in our taste?
Yeah. But, and I think this is interesting of us, we recognize, I loved this, but if we're giving an award out, we have to try and think more objectively.
Yeah.
And again, we both loved it as well. The Ultimates, like
yeah,
we both,
it's the clear winner.
Yeah, it's almost a bit of the combination of the two, the Spider-Man and the Ultimate X-Men. It doesn't reinvent the wheel like Ultimate X-Men, but it's not as grounded as the Ultimate Spider-Man, but it's kind of that halfway point and the kind of best of both.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and special mention again, Birds of Prey being the main line DC universe and still being really good.
Yeah.
Like I'm really we'll get into that because I think, again, strong panel layout contender. But yeah, best superhero comic, The Ultimates.
Yeah.
Well deserved. So getting into those kind of nitty gritty awards, should we go panel layout, art, and story? Like in those kind of
panel
order?
layout, art, writing.
Yes.
Comic of the year.
Yes. So panel layout, again, the hardest one for us to remember, I think. Birds of Prey, like I just said, that was one I remember saying this is a panel layout contender.
There was some really good stuff in Dracula.
Yep, I really liked, like, there was like the panels where they were all just blended with like red.
Yeah.
Like, it's obviously Dracula, that's like really appropriate.
Dracula, we haven't talked about it much. And you sent me the list yesterday, maybe today?
Yesterday, yeah.
And I was reflecting on everything. And Dracula, can you remember that thing we read a couple years ago? It literally is a couple years ago now. It was like very artistically out there, and it was a little the writer's story about how they got into comics.
Or something about wasn't it?
Yeah, I can't remember it. Can you ADR it in when you go to edit it?
I might put the effort in. We'll see.
No, because I think we owe it to them to ADR it in.
All right, hang on. Let me Google it. Hang on.
Just scroll through the episodes, man.
What It Is, question mark, is
What
the comic.
It Is, yes.
A avant-garde exploration of creativity and the creative process. That episode did not do well.
No, I imagine it didn't.
No.
Dracula kind of, even though it's more grounded in a traditional story, Dracula kind of felt a bit like that to me. Like, the art wasn't comic book art. And the way it was laid out, it wasn't laid out like a comic book. It was beautiful.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. The art was my biggest takeaway from it.
Yeah.
The story was like, it's the Dracula story. So,
Yeah.
and it didn't do much new of anything. But when you're given that assignment, because I think it was James Tynion again.
Yeah.
James Tynion IV. I hope I'm saying his surname right. Probably not. But he was given this, like, hey, we need to make a Dracula comic. And it's off the Bram Stoker Dracula. It's like, okay, either I try and make new stuff following that original story, like the other horror comics we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
Or you do the same story again, but you just try and present in a really new way.
Yeah.
And he went for that. And I think it paid off in the art, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, panel layout specifically, I think they went really creative with it. So yeah, it's definitely a contender.
And then Birds of Prey had some really great layouts.
Yeah, Birds of Prey did really fun stuff with like the fight scenes. There's parts where like, was it something goes off? And I can't remember the context, but something goes off and there's like ripples of colors.
Yeah.
And you see like different characters caught at different colors. There's a bit where Constantine takes him into that like magic market and it's like a perspective is all different and there's like stairs going up and all that kind of, or stairs, going in weird ways and stuff like that. So yeah, again, not remembering the specific pages, it was really great panel layout.
I remember the Cull being laid out really well.
The what, sorry?
The Cull.
Yes, Cole had, I think I remember more the individual panels themselves rather than the entire layout. Beautiful art, absolutely. Deviant, I had some interesting panel layouts.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Bond had some interesting panel layouts with the fight scenes, how they were kind of arranged and stuff. Transformers had great panel layout, I remember now.
Yeah.
I think there was like characters being punched through like one panel to the other and stuff like that.
There was characters being punched through panels.
Beneath the Trees, great panel layout, especially when it had like the reveals of like the kills and stuff like that. I think that's a Wonder Woman, the Tom King one, for all the stuff about all the boxes and stuff.
Tom King thirds, man.
Yeah.
You fucking love a Tom King third, don't
I was
you?
going to say, actually, a better one was there's that single panel, but it was the Wonder Woman and, God, what's his name? He's the guy, her love interest, Steve, not Rogers, Steve Trevor. They're walking along by like that lake in DC, in Washington, DC. And it's them, but there's like 4 or 5 of them. So it's showing them walking along and the conversation as it's happening. So that, if it wasn't for the huge narration boxes, unnecessary narration, that would have been like almost like a panel layout winner, potentially. Yeah. But then when you're filling the pages with these narration boxes, I'm like, you did so good, and now you shot yourself in the foot.
I think for the way it was laid out, it has to be Dracula.
I'm kind of leaning maybe towards Birds of Prey.
Okay.
I think only because I think Dracula almost inherently lends itself, like, do a Dracula comic, almost, like I said, it kind of lends itself to, like, make it interesting, do different stuff with it. Whereas Birds of Prey, it's like, again, mainline DC comic, they were like, do a Birds of Prey comic, and they managed to get in some really interesting stuff. When normally, again, all the schlop from Marvel and DC... Yeah. I see your point on Dracula, like absolutely. I'm
willing to concede on that one though. I'm willing to concede.
All right. I'm just trying to again. Transformers that had it was the best non-superhero comic already. I think Dracula probably did the most interesting stuff. Like as you say, there was like scenes where what's his name, the guy, Renfield, where like he was in a cell and like Dracula kind of appeared behind him and that kind of stuff. Yeah, let's give it to Dracula. Let's do
Dracula
that.
Who would have thought that this year in our best ofs, Dracula and Transformers would be scooping up awards?
Well, Transformers, when I read it, like I was not. Once I read it, I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah.
Dracula, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, actually, panel layout, you did really good on that. It's probably the best thing of that, even maybe past the arts. Like, So fair dues to you.
We're into art.
We are into art, and I think this is going to be a difficult one.
Ultimate
Ultimate X-Men.
Ultimate X-Men has to be there.
Yeah,
It's just beautiful.
Yeah, 100%.
Like all that soft pink.
Yeah, it looked beautiful. Like you could, I think our kind of prerequisite for art, as like I think we said before, is could you take the dialogue out and the speech bubbles and just have it as like, would you have it like as a painting on your wall or something?
Yeah.
So Ultimate X-Men meets that criteria to a T.
By that criteria, I think Doom has to go in there.
Doom is definitely in there. It had some great shots of Galactus like eating planets and killing all the superheroes and stuff like that. That literally was, like I said before, that was a vehicle for the art.
Yeah.
Hickman went to the artist, and this is speculation, but I would bet money on it. He went to the artist and said, "What do you want to draw?"
Yeah.
And the artist said, "I want to draw Galactus fighting Doom, and it's all crazy, and the bloody, what they called, not the Eternals, but the big cosmic beings are there, and they all fight, and it's big and blah." And Hickman's like, "All right, I'll write a story for that."
Yeah.
Like, I think that's all he's like, can I put well, I can't remember her name, Valeria Franklin in it?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, all right, like, I'm sold. That's Hickman in a nutshell. So,
So yeah, that was great.
The Ultimates had great art, but nowhere near to the other ones we're talking about.
No, the art was good, served the story.
Great, had great individual panels and stuff.
Yeah, wasn't the thing that blew me away about it.
No, and that's fair.
The Cull?
I
keep bringing it up.
Yeah, no, the Cull was great art. There were some pages where we stopped to like look at them for like a while. Like that was fantastic art.
And again, a novel style. Like it was using that sort of computer rendered thing and really leaning into it.
Yep.
And it made something special.
And it told story with the art, with like, it was like that alien creature that slowly changes as they're looking at it. And so yeah, that was really great. Beneath the Trees has to be an art contender.
Yeah, because the art was just, they weren't doing anything crazy special.
Well, they were, in the sense that they were using a style that we almost never see in comics.
Yeah,
so I think by that
it.
metric,
and this is it. None of the art, like if you took, this is the issue though, if you took individual panels, the art wouldn't blow you away. What blows you away is seeing that art style play off against what's happening.
Yeah, I think.
And so if we're just talking about phenomenal art, it has to be a contender because the art was incredibly cool.
Yes.
But I don't think it wins this category because what's special about the art is that it was a well-done version of a well-worn style doing something it shouldn't be doing.
The art's integral because if you take, like, as opposed to if this was a written story, like a novel, right? One of your books, your wordy books.
Yeah.
But if it was that, and it was like, the character's a bear. Anyway, now here's a serial killer story. Like, it doesn't have the same thing. Whereas with the art, it's integral to the point of the whole book.
No, I see your point.
Look at these cute bears and these animals, and or a badger runs a tool shop or whatever. Oh no, they're being murdered. Like, it's so important for that.
And if you redrew that story and made all of the animals people, that story wouldn't be anywhere near as good. So the art is pulling so much weight there, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So it doesn't fit one of our criteria, which is beautiful art you'd put on your wall. But I think you're right.
It's integral for the storytelling.
I think you make a valid argument.
Yeah. Transformers. Again,
it just looked fucking great.
I love that. That is Daniel Warren Johnson style. Also, found this out recently. Daniel Warren Johnson, he does a live stream like every Friday, and it's just him like drawing. Like he's like drawing his comics, and he just live streams and stuff while drawing it. But his style is, I again, maybe I'm biased. He did a great pro wrestling comic, but even if you don't like pro wrestling, that was a really beautiful comic.
Yeah,
like just start.
It was great. It was good I liked it.
Yeah, and again, same for Transformers. We didn't care, and then suddenly you've shown me a really cool looking Optimus Prime who's like fighting other big robots, and you're like, that looks awesome. And I think that's a big part of the investment we had.
Yeah,
because it wasn't just, again, bloody Michael Bay Transformer films. It just looked like a mess of moving metal and like screeching noise, and it's like, I remember watching those films, I was like, I just about understand what's happening, and I don't care. It's just, it's a mess of CGI. But this was like cool 80s like vibe. Like, I think he got that style. Like, again, pro wrestling 80s is like peak era for that.
Yeah, totally.
Transformers peak 80s. Like, I think his style is really used well for the things that we've read by him.
Yeah.
So again, form and function, maybe not. I get really liking the art and making us Transformers fans and all that, maybe doesn't quite meet the loftiness of what you just said about does it tell the story well, or would we have it as art on a wall or in a coffee table book? So I'll concede Transformers, strong contender, honorable mention. Yeah, absolutely. Daniel Warren Johnson is going to win, and if he hasn't already won on art awards from other places, he's 100% going to.
Yeah, he's gonna scoop up some Eisners at some point.
Yeah,
isn't he?
Definitely. But in terms of the rest, Deviant had some great art.
It was good, but not special.
Can I give another little silly award?
Yeah.
Deviant wins the award for best rain or snow art effect.
Oh yeah, you love that. It also wins the award for best murdered person wrapped up as a Christmas tree.
I mean, if we're going that specific, like no contenders this year. No one did that
They
thing.
ran uncontested.
I feel like mine is a little more like it could be won in other years.
You fucking love weather.
I mean, when it's done well, and
you really like
that was
weather
really
effects.
Good stuff, wasn't it?
It was. It
was it?
It was atmospheric.
Yeah, it felt like constricting and obstructing the view.
It can just win for that weather effect, man.
Oh yeah,
if that's your favorite, I'm
just giving it the best weather effect art award.
Okay,
and that's the Deviant.
Cool.
So good on your Deviant. You got one in the end.
You finally got one.
Oh, did it get Best Christmas? It got Best Christmas as well.
It did get Best Christmas.
It's sweeping the awards.
It's
Best Christmas, Best Weather Effect.
I mean, Best Christmas and Best Snow. It's very on theme, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll keep abroad to Weather Effect because, like, in future years, yeah. So, breaking it down a little bit, art. Our main arguments have been Ultimate X-Men or Beneath the Trees. Like that is. I think again, we've got these different reasons for them. I think with Beneath the Trees, they were making something brand new, so it's easier for them to like do a new artistic thing, like it's an independent comic. With Ultimate X-Men, like we kept saying, they managed to get that in a mainline Marvel title.
It takes it, doesn't it?
That style in a mainline Marvel title. Again, mainline, it's Ultimate, but it's Ultimate's like more successful than the mainline comics now, so who gives a shit? Yeah, the fact they got that in, it's a single writer artist, so it's, kind of form and function, story and art, that kind of thing.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm with X-Men. You. I'm fully with you. I think it would be a travesty if that comic didn't come away from this with an award, and the art is as good an award for any for it, because it is its strongest characteristic.
Yes. So, special mention, honorable mention, Beneath the Trees. Like, you almost there. You won Best Horror. So, and I got you in there. I got you in there.
Thing is, if it hadn't won Best Horror, it would have just scooped Best Non-Superhero title for me.
Yeah.
It was going to win something.
That's fair. Ultimate X-Men, Best Art, Best Story, or should we say Best Story or Best Writing? Was that probably Best Writing?
Because Best Story is two different things. Like, because if it's Best Story, I'm going Bond for the plot.
Yeah, it was a great plot. I think it definitely contender for, let's say, writing, because it kind of meets like panel layout, art, writing. Like panel layout is panel layout is the quintessential. It's the staple award of the Comic Lyra podcast.
It's
no one else is giving panel layout awards.
No, but we love it here.
We take it seriously. We take more seriously than bloody Eisner Awards. Yeah. Tell you that for true. So again, Dracula, you're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome. You got the most prestigious award of the lot.
Exactly.
Yeah, the biggest medal.
The best writing. I'm going to say Justice League Godzilla Kong.
You can fuck off.
I just saw it written. I was like...
So, I think my big nomination for best writing is Deviant.
Deviant was really great writing.
If you think about it, those tense conversations between the protagonist and the serial killer, or the accused serial killer, they were so tense, and so that writing to me was almost on a line with the scene in the farmhouse in Inglourious Bastards.
Yes. I see what you mean by that.
It was tense. It was well delivered.
I see what you mean by that, and I agree with you in spirit. My only thing is, I don't think I was as invested. I found it really interesting.
Okay.
I really enjoyed the characters. I like when you made that comparison, I thought, God, I was really invested in that scene, and that was at the start of that film. Whereas Deviant, I really wanted to know what happened next, but I don't think I was ever like, I think just like, again, really tense, really great dialogue and everything. The fact that those scenes were like set in a prison, I was kind of like, well, I know nothing really bad is gonna happen. Like,
right,
and
okay.
If it was I'm not saying like if it'd been better done this, it was really great.
Yeah.
But if it was even better, it would have made me feel like maybe something will happen in this prison scene. I was really interested by the characters. Like, I was really interested in what they would say next.
Yeah.
But I didn't have that same feeling like Inglourious Basterds, where like, is someone about to die? Like, it didn't get to that kind of level of tenseness.
Yeah, that's fair.
Strong contender, like, absolutely. The Ultimates writing, I think, was... Here's the thing, because I was thinking about it, and I think we missed it with Panaleo, that one issue of the Reed Doom when it's the four panels like running on every page.
Okay.
Like, probably should have mentioned that. I don't think it was going to win because it was just that one issue. But the writing in that issue as well kind of made me think like, oh, I really like was invested in that like origin of this character. But the rest of the series, really fun. Again, best superhero comic. Maybe not, I suppose, writing we kind of have to hold to like a higher degree. You know? Yeah,
maybe. I don't know. This is really hard.
Yeah, I really like the writing in Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah, actually, do you know what? You make a valid point. I think the dialogue there is phenomenal. Yeah,
he was wrestling with this thing that you only find out at the end of issue 1, like this decision, and you don't realize that that's what it is. Like, it's like that first issue is a go back and read it again issue, because then you see that context of like him kind of
maybe you're right
asking people advice and like life and that kind of stuff, and he's talking to his Uncle Ben, and they're going to the memorial of May Park, who died in the terrorist attack. That's
a shout.
Yeah. A contender, absolute contender. I'm looking through the list of other great ones. Again, Ultimate X-Men, the art was the runaway thing about that.
Yeah, no, it doesn't come... Yeah, for me, it's not the best writing.
I still say the writing was good, even though I had issues with it in that kind of manga style.
The writing was great, and it was really well put together.
Made me invested in a character that I didn't care about beforehand.
But in the same way that there's art, the artwork in the other comic books we're talking about didn't quite compare to it.
Yeah.
It didn't quite... For me, the writing in that didn't quite compare to the writing in Deviant, and we're already kind of saying maybe Deviant's not it.
Yeah, and that's a fair way to kind of judge them comparatively. And looking at the rest of the list, I'm kind of drawn to, because of what you said about James Bond 007. And we've always known Garth Ennis is a good writer. Like,
this is the thing. It's Garth Ennis, isn't it?
It's always his kind of reputation is overshadowed by the edgelordness of what he does, but there is great writing like underneath.
Yeah.
And it really it shows more so in Bond, because he's not doing as much of the overt violence and stuff.
He doesn't have that to rely on.
Well, he doesn't have almost as like a crutch, not even a crutch. A personal preference that I think clouds his other talents, which is like for character writing and story. The entire like plot was a lot better. So if we're going narrowing it down, Ultimate Spider-Man, James Bond, and The Deviant are the kind of ones we're talking about here for story.
I mean, we can't. I mean, we have to have a conversation very briefly about the writing in Under the Trees.
Yeah,
because it is phenomenally well written. But I just don't think the writing itself is kind of the thing that takes it up over.
Yeah, and for me, like I said before, about being a Dexter fan, I enjoyed it, but I also was like this is Dexter, but with bears. Like, that was... So I didn't have as much of a appreciation for the writing, because I've already seen... You can argue the levels, like, if you watch Dexter and read this comic, but for me, I was like seeing a lot of the similar notes that I'd already seen in a TV show that I already loved, like all that stuff about like, oh, everyone else is kind of just going about their day, but I'm like a wolf in sheep's clothing, and I'm walking amongst them, and they don't know and I put on this face to disguise myself. Like, that's all quintessential Dexter stuff that was very popular like over a decade ago.
Maybe it's Bond.
Maybe it's Bond.
I think we're down to Bond and Spider-Man, aren't we?
Yeah, if we're elevating those over the Deviant, which is a close third to this tied first, second place.
Yeah.
I guess I went in with less expectations for Bond.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it compared to, again, how do you compare this? Like Spider-Man, I was like, oh my God, a good Spider-Man comic finally. And Hickman. So I had these high expectations and it exceeded them. Yeah. Whereas Bond had no expectations, but also no connection, not as close a connection.
Yeah.
Even though I like the Bond films, but it still blew me away as well. Yeah, it's a difficult one. I guess of the two of them, I would lean towards Ultimate Spider-Man, but I'm very aware of my biases for that. So, like, I'm not saying that in a I think it should win way. I'm saying in a who I am as a person, a comic book fan, and a, overall fiction fan. Like, Spider-Man is more my thing than
It's
Bond.
more your jam.
What do you think?
I think you've called it with one of those two. My preference in terms of the writing was for Bond.
Yep, and I completely agree with you. Like, I see why you would say that.
But again, it's sort of what we're now coming down to is that we've whittled it down to two, and it's just down to our kind of preferences as to which franchise we have more of a relationship with.
You know what I think?
Do we have a joint winner?
You know what? I was going to say something, and this kind of goes against my pick.
Yeah.
So I think you'll appreciate this. A good Spider-Man comic, like to make a good Spider-Man comic in this day and age, you have so much reference to go back to. Like, despite what as much as I shit on Spider-Man comics, and how bad they are in recent years, in the plus 40 years that they're 50, 60 years they've been making them, there's some fucking great ones out there.
Yeah.
So you've got more reference to, like, make a great Spider-Man comic and continue in this medium. You didn't have that for a James Bond comic.
No.
You had two other mediums, like films and books, and Garth Ennis had to make that thing met in the middle with comics, and he aced it. He had nothing else within that lane. And I think that might be, if we're trying to talk objectively, I think that might be the thing that gets it,
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you've... Yeah, no, and do you know what? Oh, man, this has been such an interesting episode for us.
And if you're listening, you're welcome.
Because, like, were you expecting to come in today giving Bond an award?
No. I really enjoyed it. I knew I was going to talk about it. I knew we were going to discuss it in contention.
Best writing as well. That's a biggie.
Like we've always said, Garth Ennis is a great writer. He covers up with all this other bollocks, and when you strip that away, it's, oh, look, you make great dialogue, and the plot's really interesting, and you've redone a plot that's been done like 100 times within this character's franchise. So yeah, I think he's earned it with that extra kind of, you defied even more odds to make a good comic rather than Hickman making a great Spider-Man comic.
Yeah.
Hickman was already a great comic writer. He's been making great comics for ages. Spider-Man's an established character. Even despite the shit comics that come out recently, it's not as surprising to get a great Spider-Man comic as it was to get a great Bond comic.
Yeah, totally. So, I think you're right. You're right. I think Bond takes it.
Well, best writing James Bond. And I think the only reason it didn't get best non-superhero is because while the art was very, very suited to the story and to the vibe of the comic and everything, it wasn't as blow away as like the Transformers art, like to compare. But yeah, the writing I think was definitely better in Bond. So yeah, James Bond 007, Garth Ennis, you're getting an award.
Yeah, fucking A. Well done, Garth.
So
the big one.
Well, the secondary big one, the worst comic, and it's the only worst we do because I was going to get into this. The other mediums like films and TV and video games and all that, there's more of a content culture there of like talking about bad stuff.
Yeah.
And I think the reason for that is, unlike comics, you actually get like beat over the head with ad promotion and advertisement for stuff, so that when it then comes out and it's bad, that's more newsworthy. Like, so for an example, Sony put all their eggs in the Madam Web basket, and it got absolutely panned.
It's really easy to edit a shit film down into a good 20-second trailer.
And even worse when they're like, this film's going to be amazing, you should go out to the cinema and watch it. So when people go to that level and then go, oh, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like, that's why. Comics, it just doesn't appear in that way.
Yeah.
I think the other thing as well is, in those mediums, again, film, TV, video games, there's loads more money in it. So you've got people who are getting into that industry, in those industries, and are like, yeah, we'll make this. This will make us loads of money. And then it just pans and flops because it's terrible, because it wasn't made with any love or care and attention.
Yeah.
Comic books, I don't think there's as many people in it for the money like those industries. So you have less of that kind of like studio interference. Again, Amazing Spider-Man, that is a really fucked up comic that has been ruined by studio or publisher interference.
So we have a clear winner, I think, for Stinker of the Year.
We have such a clear winner that I think from now on, we should affectionately call the worst comic award the Gilman.
You got a Gilman?
Who gets, not a Gilman, who gets the Gilman?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It was shocking.
And this year, it is its namesake, the creature from the Black Lagoon lives.
The real question is, was it better or worse than the ones?
That's a difficult one.
Right?
Yeah.
I think it's even worse than the ones.
2023 Gilman winner before he was even the Gilman.
Yeah, this is it. We're not calling it the Ones Awards.
Yeah.
It's the Gilman.
You've
it was
got the
so
Gilman.
bad.
It's a difficult one because the ones was trying to be cool.
And not
was
cool at all.
Not cool. Cringe. Came off really cringy. The plot was just nothing. Just didn't even try. Like the actual plot, like what's happening to these characters, what's the what do you call it? The stakes, like, were just like non-existent. Like the big bad was like, who cares? Like, what are they doing? Like, just awful. Gilman and the Black Lagoon, it just made so many bad micro decisions, like not the macro stuff.
Yeah.
The big story was just standard. Like,
but every decision they made within that was terrible.
All the little decisions were just awful. And the character motivations, like this was a more grounded story than the ones.
Yeah.
But it was still really as confusing.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
The character motivations just made no sense. The characters were like doing really dumb stuff, like talking to themselves while they're like trying to sneak around a base.
Yeah.
Like it just the actual execution of exposition was bad. That thing with the killer found like discarded pieces of the Gilman monster and made himself a Gilman monster.
Oh, it's just so shocking.
But with the surgical precision of a veteran plastic surgeon.
Yeah.
Like there were no stitches or blood or anything. Like
not
he
a
had done
single
perfect,
wrinkle.
It looked like he had grown into a Gilman monster, which would have made more sense.
Yeah.
For the art, that would have made more sense. For the story, he should have looked like a Frankenstein, like a surgical mess of like a guy trying to graft bits of a monster to himself. And yet, like that would have supported the horror aspect of it. Like that would have been more horrifying than the Gilman monster.
Yeah.
But they were like, no, he needs to look like pristine and smooth and like he's done a really great job with that sewing needle. Like,
this
what?
is it.
It was so confused. Like the ones I kind of understood the direction. Like I could see what they were going for and how they failed.
Yeah.
The Creature Black Lagoon, I was like, why did you do this?
What
like,
were you even gunning for?
Why did you make so many bad mistakes, like bad creative choices in a row? Like,
so there it is.
Yeah.
The Gilman Award for the worst comic of the year goes to Creature from the Black Lagoon.
And tell you what, if it wasn't for bloody spooky season and me trying to find like interesting horror stories and Image doing this whole Universal Monsters thing, we wouldn't have read it.
No.
Like, what would have been worst if it wasn't for that? Like, it would have been mid. Like, everything else was mid. That was the only bad one. Yeah, Alien was pretty bad.
Void Rivals, but Void Rivals wasn't even bad.
Yeah.
I think were it not for this, we wouldn't have had a worst comic of the year.
I think it would have had to been Alien. Just on that. Like, again, Alien was bad because Alien was overall a mid comic.
Yeah.
But it's like, you have aliens.
Yeah.
How do you not make an exciting horror story, like sci-fi horror with that?
How did somebody manage to make a better horror story about a fucking teddy bear than you did with Aliens?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, Gilman and dishonorable mention Aliens from 2024.
Big one.
Well, do we do a Mid-est? Because like we're an hour 40 into here, maybe less if we add out silencers, but Mid-est, like might be a difficult one to do. What's the one you remember like the least? Like we've been over it. What's the one you have like zero to say about? Like not good, not bad. I'll run through the list real quick.
No, there's an obvious winner.
Okay.
It's the one about the train.
Do you mean the truck?
The truck.
The Phantom Road?
Yeah.
For the fact alone that it's about a truck and not a train, I think that gets it.
Thoroughly made.
Yeah. And you know what as well?
Made.
That was a bloody Eisner Award nomination.
Yeah, I know. And it had all the rest. It had all... This is why it's the Mid-est. It's either that or Void Rivals.
See, Void Rivals I thought was between fine and good. Or like okay and good. Like it was just above okay.
Yeah, it wasn't as mid as Phantom Road.
No. Phantom Road was trying to be like
Ghost Truck.
Yeah, Phantom Road was trying to be like, ooh, what's happening? What's the mystery? And I was like, I don't care.
Yeah, totally.
Like, but you've done everything else right. We could not fault it on any other like specific category or aspect.
There was nothing wrong with it except for the fact that it was just a bit bland.
Yeah. That's probably that's the Mid-est. With Mid-est is we can't criticize it, but we
Yeah.
can't give it any accolades or
Yeah.
praise at all either. So yeah, I agree with you. That's Phantom Road. Well done, Phantom Road. You might not have won the Eisner, but you got an award. Very happy with yourself.
Comic of the year.
Comic of the year.
So it comes down to...
Gotta go with one of the previous category winners.
This is it.
Yeah.
So it comes down to Something Beneath the Trees.
Yep, which is the best horror.
The Ultimates.
Yep, best superhero.
Transformers.
Yep, best non-superhero.
Bond.
Bond for best writing, yep.
Ultimate X-Men.
Ultimate X-Men for best art. Or somehow Dracula for best panel
I think
layout.
we can knock best panel
Okay.
layout out of that.
Yeah.
Because that's not a big award,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
it?
You're the best comic in our hearts because
Yeah.
you had the best panel layout. So yeah,
So there's one of those.
And I think we should, for that same kind of token, we should probably take out best writing and best art because that was one specific aspect that was the
No,
best.
I think writing and art are so instrumental to comic books that they have to be in there. If the best horror comic goes in there,
Yeah.
then the best writing and the best art have to.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, yeah, I was looking at horror as more of like a genre in the same vein as superhero, non-superhero.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, yeah, we can still put them in contention. So yeah, it's between those five. And I mean, I feel like, despite the arguments you've just made, which I agree with, for me, I guess is still between Beneath the Trees,
and the Ultimates.
Ultimates, and Transformers.
Yeah.
As between
it
those.
is.
I think as much as I love Beneath the Trees, and like I said before, it's a stuff that I've already seen and experienced before.
I was going to make an argument for it. Because
Okay.
it blew me away.
Yeah, go ahead.
It blew me away. I think the convergence between the art and the concept was so strong. It was so well executed and it was such a breath of fresh air. For me, going into this conversation, it would be my favourite.
Okay.
That being said, I think something else came along this year that has to be the best, and it's the Ultimates.
Well, if we're thinking between the Ultimates and Transformers, I think what's interesting is, again, different criteria. Transformers made us fans when we weren't before. We had no invest. The Ultimates, it took an old war. Again, good Avengers comics. There's rife with them for previous years, but you've reinvented and, refreshed this tired old thing and done something new with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I have to agree. The Ultimates. I think we raved about it the most.
Yeah.
I think thinking back to the episodes that we did, Transformers was more like, this is actually pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, we didn't give a shit about this. This is really good. Ultimates was like, this was amazing. Like,
And it
we
was,
were like,
oh, this is why I liked it. This is why I
Yes.
liked it. This is why I liked it.
and I had no criticisms, I don't
No.
think. Don't think I had any criticisms. Yeah, I think the Ultimates takes it. Best superhero comic of the year and best comic of the year.
Yeah.
And you can't say we're biased to superhero comics because last year was 8 Billion Genies and that was the non-superhero. So
Yeah.
just so happened that the best superhero one won it this year.
Yeah, totally. I think that's the one.
But I think if you look at all the best titles that we picked out, I think that like you would look at 2024 and say it was a really not only great year for comics, but just it was diverse for comics.
Dude, we have covered some really diverse and interesting stuff this year.
And I think it helps that we just do stuff that seems interesting.
Yeah, totally.
It's why like Mid is kind of more annoying. Like if we had to do every comic somehow, Mid would just be, we would be annoyed by Mid in the sense of like, oh, this again.
We'd have to trudge through it all.
Yeah.
And again, I remember last year when we did this, you weren't as good at picking the comics yet.
Yeah.
And there was a
took
lot
some
more
time.
mid.
Yeah.
There was a lot more mid. Whereas actually, I think it's a testament to our process that you have gotten really good at sniffing out the good stuff.
It's more stuff from like the second half of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
It's all stuff from the summer onwards that we've really fallen in love with.
Yeah, and it's the better stuff, and it's when we stop doing as many SEO tie-ins.
Yeah.
So yeah, that all helps.
I'm a bit miffed that Nightwing didn't get anything.
It got best single issue.
No, it did get Best Single Issue, the coveted Best Single Issue award
Exactly.
that
And
we
again,
stole fully from the Eisner and it ran uncontested.
I mean, it got the Eisner Award for that, but now it's got the real award.
The
for
real-
the
the-
real single issue
the
award.
pin badge of joy from the Comic Literate podcast.
Exactly. And Dick Grayson, he'll always be in our hearts, whether we like it or not.
And on a big poster in my bedroom.
Yeah, we'll go back to him. We'll see what he's doing in like 2025.
Yeah,
We'll
totally.
go back to him.
Yeah, 2025 bicentennial Dick Grayson.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, if you listened for some recommendations, I hope that we've given you some ones that you haven't already read And trust me when I say, if they won an award by us, they are good.
Yeah.
A stamp of approval means something.
I'm really happy with that list. I think we've whittled down, because we had about 40 odd, didn't we?
Oh, yeah.
We've whittled it down into some really like some of the best stuff that came out this year.
Absolutely. And I would put this up against any Eisner group or anyone else who gives comic book awards. IGN, I think they do something. Comicbook.com or whatever. I would put our winners up against anyone else's.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, and say the ones we picked are the best. And here's an hour and 3/4 explaining in excruciating detail why they are the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah. And, good work on us.
Thank you.
Because my throat is hoarse and I'm about to lose my voice.
I'm starving. I'm going to get so much dinner.
Well, there you go. And if you stuck with us this long, because, how could you not? We are very engaging. Thank you for listening for us. We did a bit of a thanking the listeners in the 100th episode, which was only last week, but again for the end of the year.
Do you know, one of them wrote into us?
Yes. Oh, this was just why I mentioned to you and almost forgot to mention.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, we did have a comment from someone, which I thought was worthy of bringing up here. Someone named, or their username, Leon Goopy said,
hey, Mr. Goop.
They said they've been binging these on Spotify at work while they can't read, loving it, and then be working their way through the backlog. So
lovely.
Thank you, Goopy, and always appreciate any input we can get for this.
Lovely to have you. But somebody else wrote to us.
Ah, right, fair enough. It wasn't the one I was thinking of.
No, it wasn't the one you were thinking of. And they were talking about how important it is to new creators that you leave reviews. And I thought this was really interesting because I'd never considered it this way. But they said that it's really important that when you do leave a review, it's a 5-star review.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that is the most affectionate type of review, I would say.
And they also said how, as a creator, they really love it when people write into them at their email address, which is really weird because it was the same as our email address.
Well, that's weird, because if we've claimed it first, like if we've claimed the email address there is comiclyra@gmail.com.
You'd think they wouldn't have it, right?
Yeah, and I better check if it is .com or .co.uk, because I always forget this.
Imagine if people have just been sending a swathe of emails to the wrong email address.
It is .com. It is correct every time. So yeah, it's weird, because we already have that, and we have that for people to write into us if we were to request it, which obviously we haven't because we don't do that. But yeah, it's weird that we would have that first rather than this other person.
I know, it was very strange. But I just thought that was worth bringing up to you because it struck me as being a bit weird.
Yeah, well, world is weird.
I know.
And it's so weird, like, you can go on, like, social media and see all, like, people doing different weird content. Like, sometimes they'll have, like, another YouTube channel, like, outside of the podcast.
Right, okay.
Yeah, like, might be, like, a weird pun on a name, like Comic Stan or something, and maybe there's, like, comic-themed YouTube videos over there.
That sounds really lame.
Yeah, and weird. Like, it's weird and lame, but maybe it's there for it. And maybe there's short clips of podcasts. Like, that's a pretty weird thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah,
like,
it is a weird thing
use social media to promote your podcast. Ugh.
I know, it's icky,
gross.
Isn't it?
But yeah, no, I agree. That's weird.
Here's to another year where we don't do calls to action.
We've never done calls to action.
Never.
And we never will.
We never will. That's the comic literate promise.
And thank you, Gilman.
Cheers, Gilman.
Right.
I'll tell you who we need more of.
Peppermint John.
Always.
Yes. And if you know that reference, good on you.
Cheers, bye.
Thank you, goodbye.